The autumn wind carried with it the scent of dying leaves and the weight of impending change as the scholar's fingers traced the worn leather binding of the prince. In the dim candlelight of his study, surrounded by towers of philosophical treatises and historical accounts, he understood that what lay before him was not merely a book, but a whetstone for the human mind. The words of Niccolò Machiavelli, written centuries ago in the turbulent landscape of Renaissance Italy, possessed a peculiar quality that seemed to cut through the fog of modern complacency with surgical precision. The phenomenon was undeniable. Those who truly comprehended Machiavelli's teachings did not merely learn political theory, they underwent a fundamental transformation of cognitive processing. Their minds became instruments of clarity, capable of dissecting complex situations with the methodical precision of a master surgeon. The question that haunted serious students of power was not whether this transformation occurred, but how such ancient wisdom could so radically sharpen contemporary thinking. Part 1. The forging of mental steel. The transformation begins with recognition. The moment when a reader first encounters Machiavelli's unflinching examination of power dynamics and realizes that most human interactions operate according to laws as predictable as physics. Unlike the comfortable illusions promoted by idealistic philosophies, Machiavellian thought demands that practitioners acknowledge the world as it truly exists, not as they wish it to be. This initial confrontation with reality serves as the first stroke of the mental whetstone, stripping away layers of wishful thinking that have accumulated over years of social conditioning. Consider the executive who, after absorbing the lessons of the prince, begins to observe office politics with new eyes. Where once she saw random conflicts and personality clashes, she now identifies clear patterns of alliance building, resource competition, and strategic positioning. The promotion she had attributed to merit alone reveals itself as the result of careful relationship cultivation and timing. The colleague she had trusted implicitly shows signs of harboring competing interests. This is not cynicism. It is clarity. The Machiavellian mind does not become pessimistic. It becomes accurate. The sharpening process intensifies as practitioners learn to separate emotion from analysis. Machiavelli's greatest gift to strategic thinking lies in his insistence that effective action requires the suppression of personal feelings when they interfere with objective assessment. The leader who can maintain emotional equilibrium while others succumb to passion, this emotional regulation creates space for what military strategists call battlefield clarity, the ability to process information and make decisions even under extreme pressure. The methodology extends beyond mere observation into active engagement with complexity. Machiavellian thinking trains the mind to hold multiple variables in simultaneous consideration without becoming overwhelmed. A skilled practitioner learns to evaluate not only immediate consequences but also second and third order effects, understanding that every action creates ripples throughout a system. The business leader negotiating a merger must consider not only the immediate financial implications, but also how the deal will affect employee morale, competitor responses, regulatory attention, and long-term market positioning. This multifaceted analysis develops what cognitive scientists term systems thinking, the ability to perceive interconnections and feedback loops that remain invisible to linear thinkers. The Machiavellian mind becomes capable of playing three-dimensional chess while others struggle with checkers. This enhanced cognitive capacity manifests in improved pattern recognition, more accurate predictions of human behavior, and superior strategic planning across all domains of life. The process demands rigorous intellectual honesty. Machiavelli's teachings force practitioners to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature, power structures, and their own limitations. This confrontation with reality, however painful, eliminates the cognitive blind spots that plague most decision-makers. The individual who can acknowledge their own capacity for self-deception gains a significant advantage over those who remain trapped in comforting illusions. Perhaps most importantly, the Machiavellian approach to mental development emphasizes practical application over theoretical knowledge. The prince who studies statecraft but never governs remains merely an academic. Similarly, The modern practitioner must test theoretical insights against real-world challenges. This iterative process of theory, application, reflection, and refinement creates a feedback loop that continuously sharpens analytical capabilities. The transformation manifests in observable behavioral changes. Machiavellian thinkers develop a characteristic pause before responding to complex situations, a brief moment of analysis that allows them to consider multiple angles and potential outcomes. B. They ask better questions, focusing not on what people say they want, but on what their actions reveal about their true motivations. They become skilled at reading between the lines, detecting incongruencies between stated positions and underlying interests. Part 2. The Arsenal of Strategic Cognition. The second phase of mental sharpening involves the systematic development of specific cognitive tools drawn from Machiavellian principles. These intellectual instruments, when properly understood and applied, transform the practitioner's ability to navigate complex social and professional environments with unprecedented effectiveness. The foundation of this arsenal rests upon the principle of flexible thinking. Machiavelli's famous assertion that a prince must learn to be both fox and lion illustrates the critical importance of cognitive adaptability. The lion represents direct, forceful approaches to problem solving, while the fox embodies cunning, indirect strategies. Most individuals gravitate toward one approach or the other, limiting their effectiveness. The sharpened Machiavellian mind maintains access to both modes of operation, selecting the appropriate tool based on situational demands rather than personal preference. This flexibility extends to moral reasoning as well. Machiavelli's controversial stance on the relationship between ethics and effectiveness forces practitioners to develop what philosophers call moral complexity thinking, the ability to navigate ethical dilemmas without resorting to simplistic absolute principles. The business leader facing a choice between protecting jobs and ensuring company survival must weigh competing moral claims without the luxury of clear-cut answers. This complexity tolerance strengthens decision-making capabilities by preventing paralysis in ambiguous situations. The development of temporal thinking represents another crucial component of the Machiavellian cognitive toolkit. While most people focus primarily on immediate concerns, strategic thinkers learn to operate across multiple time horizons simultaneously. They understand that actions taken today shape tomorrow's options, that current allies may become future competitors, and that temporary setbacks can create long-term opportunities. This temporal awareness allows for more sophisticated planning and prevents the short-term thinking that destroys so many promising ventures. Risk assessment capabilities undergo dramatic enhancement through Machiavellian training. Rather than seeking to eliminate all risks, an impossible goal, practitioners learn to evaluate and manage risk portfolios systematically. They develop intuitive understanding of concepts like asymmetric risk-reward ratios, understanding when small investments might yield enormous returns and when apparent opportunities carry disproportionate dangers. This sophisticated risk calibration enables more aggressive yet intelligent action. Information gathering and analysis skills receive particular attention in the Machiavellian development process. Practitioners learn to construct and maintain intelligence networks, formal and informal sources of information that provide early warning of changing conditions. They master the art of extracting reliable intelligence from unreliable sources, understanding that biased information still contains valuable data if properly interpreted. The ability to synthesize disparate information streams into coherent strategic pictures becomes a defining characteristic of the sharpened mind. Communication abilities evolve beyond mere persuasion toward sophisticated influence architecture. Machiavellian thinkers understand that different audiences require different approaches, that timing affects receptivity, and that indirect influence often proves more durable than direct pressure. They develop sensitivity to emotional undercurrents in conversations, learning to read not just what people say, but how they feel about what they're saying. This enhanced social intelligence enables more effective leadership and collaboration. The development of strategic patience represents perhaps the most challenging aspect of Machiavellian mental training. In a culture obsessed with immediate gratification, the ability to delay action while conditions develop requires enormous discipline. Yet this patience, combined with preparedness to act decisively when opportunities arise, distinguishes superior strategists from reactive thinkers. The investor who waits months for the perfect entry point, the executive who spends years building relationships before launching a new initiative, the diplomat who allows complex negotiations to mature naturally, all demonstrate the power of strategic patience. Scenario planning abilities receive systematic development through Machiavellian practice. Rather than hoping for the best, practitioners learn to envision multiple potential futures and prepare contingency plans for each. This preparedness mindset reduces anxiety about uncertainty while increasing readiness to capitalize on changing circumstances. The business leader who has already considered how to respond to various competitive moves, economic shifts, or technological disruptions gains precious time advantages when such changes actually occur. The cultivation of strategic empathy, the ability to understand others' perspectives and motivations without being emotionally captured by them, represents a sophisticated development in Machiavellian thinking. This skill enables practitioners to predict behavior patterns, identify potential coalition partners, and design approaches that align with others' interests while advancing their own objectives. Let's be honest. We've all been there until the second phase of topics, and we've all been there. Trust Teddy comes in. With Trust Teddy, can't there just be an easier method to send a gift? With Trust Teddy, let's be honest. Strategic empathy differs from emotional empathy by maintaining analytical distance while still generating accurate insights into human psychology. Part 3. The precision instrument of applied power, the culmination of Machiavellian mental development, manifests in the creation of what can only be described as a precision instrument of applied intelligence. The practitioner who has successfully integrated these teachings possesses cognitive capabilities that approach the level of art, the ability to navigate complex social and professional environments with an almost intuitive understanding of power dynamics, human psychology, and strategic position. The precision emerges through the synthesis of analytical clarity with practical wisdom. Unlike academic theorists who understand concepts intellectually but lack implementation experience, or street-smart operators who possess intuitive knowledge but lack systematic frameworks, the fully developed Machiavellian practitioner combines both dimensions. They can analyze a situation with scholarly rigor while maintaining the practical sense necessary for effective action. This synthesis becomes apparent in crisis management situations. When organizations face existential threats, the differences between various levels of strategic thinking become starkly visible. Average managers become overwhelmed by complexity, retreat into denial, or make desperate moves that worsen their situations. The Machiavellian-trained leader maintains analytical composure, systematically evaluates options, and implements solutions with surgical precision. They understand that crises create opportunities for fundamental repositioning, that competitors' weaknesses during difficult periods create openings for aggressive advancement, and that decisive action during chaos often determines long-term competitive position. The precision instrument quality becomes most evident in the practitioner's ability to achieve objectives through seemingly minimal effort. Like a master martial artist who defeats opponents through perfect timing and positioning rather than brute force, the sharpened Machiavellian mind accomplishes goals through strategic elegance rather than resource intensity. The executive who transforms organizational culture through a series of small, well-timed interventions demonstrates this principle. The diplomat who resolves complex international disputes through carefully crafted compromises exemplifies precision application of strategic thinking. This efficiency emerges from deep understanding of leverage points within systems. Machiavellian analysis reveals that most complex situations contain a few critical variables that, when influenced correctly, create cascading changes throughout the entire system. The skilled practitioner learns to identify these leverage points and apply pressure with remarkable economy of effort, rather than attempting to control every variable. An impossible task. They focus on the few elements that control many others. The development of what military strategists call battlefield intuition represents the highest form of Machiavellian mental sharpening. This intuitive capacity emerges from years of pattern recognition, systematic analysis, and practical application. The experienced practitioner begins to sense opportunities and threats before they become obvious to others. They develop almost preternatural timing, knowing when to advance and when to retreat, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to reveal information and when to withhold it. This intuitive development does not represent mystical thinking, but rather the natural result of extensive training in systematic analysis. Just as master chess players seem to see winning moves intuitively after years of study and practice, Machiavellian practitioners develop strategic intuition through accumulated experience with power dynamics. Their subconscious minds process vast amounts of social and political data, generating insights that feel intuitive but actually represent the culmination of sophisticated analytical processes. The precision instrument quality extends to communication and influence. Advanced practitioners develop remarkable ability to craft messages that achieve multiple objectives simultaneously. A single carefully constructed statement might reassure allies, warn competitors, signal intentions to observers, and test the loyalty of questionable supporters. This multi-layered communication represents the verbal equivalent of precision engineering. Every word serves specific strategic purposes. The temporal dimension of precision becomes particularly pronounced in advanced practice. Master-level Machiavellian thinkers develop exquisite sensitivity to timing, understanding that identical actions produce vastly different results depending on when they're implemented. They learn to sense the rhythms of complex systems, recognizing when conditions are right for action and when patience remains necessary. This temporal precision enables them to maximize impact while minimizing resistance. Perhaps most remarkably, the fully sharpened Machiavellian mind develops the ability to operate effectively across multiple domains simultaneously. The same analytical frameworks that prove effective in corporate environments translate seamlessly to political contexts, personal relationships, and creative endeavors. This transferability stems from the universal nature of power dynamics and human psychology. The fundamental patterns remain constant across different contexts, though their surface manifestations vary. The ethical dimension of precision deserves particular attention. Advanced Machiavellian practice does not eliminate moral considerations, but rather integrates them into strategic calculations with greater sophistication. The practitioner learns to pursue ethical objectives through effective means, understanding that good intentions without strategic competence often produce harmful results. They develop what might be called ethical realism, the ability to advance moral purposes while maintaining clear-eyed assessment of practical constraints and opportunities. The transformation ultimately creates individuals who possess what can only be described as strategic wisdom, the rare combination of analytical sophistication, practical experience, and moral clarity that enables them to navigate complex challenges. They become capable of operating effectively in environments that overwhelm less prepared individuals, finding paths forward where others see only obstacles, and achieving objectives that seem impossible to conventional thinking. The precision of their mental instruments allows them to dissect complex problems into manageable components, design solutions that address multiple constraints simultaneously, and implement changes with minimal disruption to productive elements of existing systems. They understand that true strategic genius lies not in destroying existing structures, but in transforming them efficiently to serve better purposes. This level of mental sharpness represents more than mere intellectual development. It constitutes a fundamental enhancement of human capability. The individual who has successfully integrated Machiavellian teachings possesses cognitive tools that dramatically expand their ability to understand, predict, and influence complex systems. They become, in effect, enhanced human beings, not through technological augmentation, but through the systematic development of their natural intellectual and social capabilities. The journey from ordinary thinking to Machiavellian precision requires dedication, courage, It demands willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature and power dynamics. It requires sustained practice in applying theoretical insights to real-world challenges. Most importantly, it demands the intellectual honesty to acknowledge mistakes, adjust strategies based on results, and continue learning throughout the process. Yet for those who complete this journey, the rewards extend far beyond professional success or material achievement. They gain something far more valuable: the ability to see clearly through the fog of complexity that blinds most human decision-making. They develop the cognitive equivalent of surgical precision, enabling them to navigate life's challenges with remarkable effectiveness while maintaining their fundamental humanity and moral compass. The ancient wisdom of Machiavelli, when properly understood and applied, becomes a timeless technology for human enhancement, a method for sharpening the human mind to deadly precision without losing the heart that makes such precision worthwhile. In a world of increasing complexity and accelerating change, such mental sharpening represents not luxury but necessity for those who aspire to meaningful achievement and positive impact. The scholar closed the worn volume as dawn broke through his study window, understanding finally that Machiavelli's greatest gift was not political theory but cognitive transformation, the alchemical process by which ordinary minds become extraordinary instruments of clarity, precision, and strategic wisdom. The blade had been sharpened, and the world would never look quite the same again. This clip will sharpen your mind to deadly precision. Machiavelli,